Okay, I think I'm back and we're going to try to deal with that. Okay, so yeah, we are going to start with the first one. This first one is, should I say, pretty straightforward. We just want the user to input two numbers and then we um, output the average of those two numbers to the console. So, um, who is there with a computer? Please, I would like that you are all there with your computers, at least if you have a computer, so that we do these things together. Who is there with a computer? Show of hand. Okay. Ah, that sounds good. At least some people are there. At least. That's nice. Okay, so let's start with the first one. I've just created a new folder called examples, and I'll start with average.py, and hopefully my screen is visible. Should I zoom? Yeah, all right. All right, I know you're in Bamenda. Okay, so should I zoom? Do you see my screen? Ah, people have to talk. Oh,
Yes, sir.
okay. So what is a yes sir for? Should I zoom or it's
We
okay?
can see. I can
Yes,
see your
please.
screen.
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, somebody said I should zoom it. I'm sure the person who made this comment is probably using the phone. Either ways. All right, let's start with that first example. We want to I'm just going to write a comment here. Ask the user for two numbers and return the average. Okay, instead of return, let's call it print the average. So in this case, we need access to some keywords in Python. We need to ask the user for a number and we need to talk about operators, right? Now, getting input from the user is as simple as we have been seeing. How do we get input from a user again? Random call, Lois.
Please, sir, I did not attend that class, so I'm following up.
Ouch. Okay, Megan, don't worry, we'll do it together, right? Megan,
Okay, thank you.
So,
yeah, if I wanted to get input from a user, how do I do it?
to get input the first number, yeah, you can put number one equal to, you can put integer of what, depends on what you want.
Mm,
Bracket input, bracket
okay.
enter the first number.
All right, so we can use the input keyword, right? So we are going to
Yes,
define
sir.
number one and assign it to some uh, input that we are going to get from the user. Input the first number. Now, with this, whatever the user inputs is going to be considered as a string. Now we might have an error with that, right? Because if we want to get the average of two strings, it's going to be a problem. So at this case, we do what they call casting. But first, Lois, you use this input, all right? Once you have this input, whatever is displayed here will display on the console. Then it will give the user some space to input something. Now, whatever is inputted is stored into this variable num1. But when you use the input, the default value that is read in is a string. So we need to convert that string into an integer. So we need to cast, right? We call it casting. So we can pass it into, let's call it a float because the number can actually be a float. So we cast it like this. We have a float and the input, we have gotten num1. That is going to be the same for num2, right? So num2 is
Yeah.
equal to float input, enter the second number, whatever you choose, the message you choose to display. Now we have number one and number two. How do we get the average of two numbers?
We take the two number divided by two.
Okay, so we get the sum of the two numbers, num1, let me call it average, is equal to the sum of the two numbers, num1 plus num2. Then we divide it by 2 because there are just two numbers here, right? That is how we get the average. But now, in general BODMAS of mathematics, there is this aspect of, let me see, BODMAS. So it says bracket first, computes a bracket, says of, computes the of, says division, says multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So addition and subtraction are like the last thing that it will do. So if we do like this, it is first of all going to try to take number 2 divided by 2 before adding number 1 there. So what we need to do to make sure this computation is in the way we want, we put this 2 inside a bracket, right? This is going to make sure that it follows the right precedence. It's first of all going to sum number 1 and number 2 before dividing it by 2. Is that okay? Hopefully.
Yes, sir.
Is anybody having a problem with that?
I don't have problem.
Okay. You don't have a problem, right? Somebody said something. I did not pick who was that. Marilyn, were you the one who talked? Who spoke? Sorry.
That's clear.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and print out the average. Average. And there we go. So this is going to ask the user for two numbers and calculate the average. So if we were to test this, I'm going to make sure I'm inside the folder and I'm going to do Python average.py. Okay, sorry. Did I spell this well? Average.py. Okay, sorry. I need to put this inside and Python average.py. It asks for the first number. I'm going to input 12. Asks for the second number. I'm going to put 81. And it prints out the average as 46.5. You can add the two and try to divide. This is 12 plus 81 is 93. Divided by 2 is 46.5, I guess. Um, I should zoom it again. Megan, I'm already almost at my highest. You might want to rotate your screen.
It's okay, sir. It's okay, I know.
Okay. So yeah, I'm saying that now if we run this program, you actually see uh, the first input, the second input, the computation of the average, and then the printing of the average. That is what occur here. So literally we could say I'll use formatted string here and say okay, average is, I put this in curly brackets, and that. So instead of putting average is, I could put this, and then I'm going to add some space here so that I should be able to see. Okay, so we run that. We have input the first number 47, the second number 50, and we have average is 48.5. I'm sure that one is clear. We can move to the next, right? So, Miss Lois, you now see how we get input from the user on the console, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can we move to the next? Yes, Patience.
Sir,
Yeah.
I was thinking since we're using to use decimal number,
Come again. I can't hear you well.
I was wondering why decimal number
Since we're dealing with the flow, since we're dealing with integers,
since we're dealing with float.
okay, float is equivalent to decimal. Okay, when we say float, a floating point number is like uh 40.5 or something. This is float, and in most cases we call it decimal. Now, if you want to explicitly put it to integer like 40, 50, and so on, that is an integer. But because we don't know whether the user might be inputting something, let me show you. Let's say 40.9, 40, and we want that it should give the exact average without rounding it down. If we converted this to an int, and we try getting the average, let's put 40 and 61. Oh, we actually do get a 50.5, probably because Python is a little bit intelligent to understand this. But if we cast this into an int, it's either going to round this up or down generally. So I did a float here because I am expecting either an integer or a floating point number. That was the reason. I don't know if you get the point. Hello, patience.
It's okay, sir. I've understood.
Okay, Marilyn.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
If the we cast our labels because we want to have a float, if the user enter characters and will be indeed they, there will be have inputs. So what we can do that
Can you come again? Your network is breaking. Did anybody hear her? Maybe. Okay, come again one more time.
no, we cast our because we want to have, but if the user characters instead of float now, we
Mhm.
do just you know
Wow.
because the program will and show that our
Okay. Marilyn, type your question in the message section. Sorry, your network is breaking, so I'm hearing parts. Is that okay? You can just type it. I'll try to answer it. Are you okay with that? You can type your question here in the chat section. So I'm going to be waiting for that. All right. Just type it out. Let's just give her some time to type it and then Josiane, you were saying that I should mute. Maybe it's echoing from my end. I think my system is quite cool that it doesn't is it they call it reverberate or whatever. It doesn't cause echoing. According to what I know though. So yeah, while she's typing her question, does any other person have a worry? Okay, let me get to Marilyn. Okay, so let's check something. Let us run this program again. I'm trying to go with Marilyn's question. Let me say I inputted characters here. Okay, good. So we have if we input a string instead of an actual number like a float, it throws a value error. According to yesterday, how do we do this? We have to put this inside a try catch block, right? Because we want to handle this kind of exceptions. So Marilyn, if we wanted to fix this kind of problem, all we are going to do is we are going to put this code inside a try catch. All right. Sorry, try except. So we will probably want to say, okay, try all of this code inside here. Mr. Bafon, good evening. I just noticed you joined. We'll try all of this code in here and except we have a value error, then we are going to say that, okay, uh, print invalid input. Please enter either a float or an integer. Now, all of these guys are supposed to be probably up here. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it here and make sure I indent, of course. Okay, so Marilyn, this is how we are going to handle this kind of error. We put our code inside a try except block so that we can handle that error. Okay. I don't know if there's an explicit way to convert a string into a float, but either ways, if we do that, we might not really get the correct result that we're looking for. So if I were to input this and input some number, you see, we get now an actual error, invalid input. Please enter either a float or an integer because we have added error handling to our code. Marilyn, does that answer your question? Okay, good. All right, can we go to the next thing? Or is there any other question? Okay, assuming there is no other question, let us try to check the next example. Let us find the maximum value in a list. Okay, so I'm going to create another file max in list.py. So what this one expects us to do is that we should have a list of numbers, and what it expects us to do is go through that list of numbers and then probably return the maximum number in that list. That's what we want. So any suggestion before I even start giving out my own thoughts?
So we can use the max function.
Mm-mm. I don't want to. That's great. That's great. It's fine. Seriously fine. So generally, what we will be doing here right now is that we are going to be trying to get to do it manually. Like we are learning the basics of programming, so we have to do um, it manually. Okay. So if we had a list of numbers, let's start with Josiah's thing. Define a list of numbers. List of numbers and set it to some list 12, 45, 2, 19, 100, 650, right? So this is the list of numbers. By the way, let us try Alright, are you the one that said we should use max?
It's Dockers.
Okay, Docker said we should use max. Yes, you could just say list of numbers and we print list of numbers or we print maximum. Maximum is maximum like that. And I think this is going to run quite well, right? It's supposed to run, right? We get that the maximum is 650. Very excellent. In a production environment or in actual jobs, this is what you are expected to do. You don't have to go and start defining a max function somewhere to do some stuff again. But I want us to learn programming, okay? Let us see how we could get
We
them.
could
Yes?
we could assign the first element of the list to be the maximum, and then look through the list. If you have a value that is greater than the assigned maximum, we assign it to be the new max.
Okay, sorry. So let me be seeing who is talking. Is that favor?
Stackers.
Oh, Dorcas. Okay, good. So this is approach one. Excellent approach one. Now let's talk about approach two. Approach two. So, Mr. Baffon, what we are doing is that we are trying to go through all the things that we've been doing by examples. Yeah. Okay. So, approach two, you said we should assign the first element of the list to be the maximum. So we say maximum is equal to, how do we get the first element of the list?
List of numbers at index 0.
Awesome. So, yeah. Then what next? We should look through the list, right?
The list, yes, sir.
For num in list of numbers. Yes.
If list of numbers of
Okay. Okay, so first thing, know that we are not using range here. So there will be no need saying that list of numbers at index of something. No, we'll prefer, since we are looping using the for something in something, we can just say that if that particular number is probably greater than our maximum number, right? Then
yeah,
we set that number to be the maximum number, right?
yes, yes, sir.
Then we are going to say that maximum is equal to our new number. And then at the end, we are going to now try to print uh, like using formatted string. Who taught me formatted string again? Wonderful. I keep doing. Okay, max is maximum. Something like that, right? Who agrees with her? Who agrees with this approach? Josiane, do you have any other approach? Uh,
No, sir, I agree with you.
you just sit and agree with her like that.
Ah,
Okay, Marilyn also agrees. So let's test it out. Awesome. So we get 650. Let's not say that this 650. Let's remove this 650 and put it somewhere else. So that we should not say that it's because it's at the last. Let's do it again. Okay, we still get 650. Now let me change this to 10. The next maximum number inside here will be what? 100, I guess, right? So if we run this, we get that our maximum number is 100. So hopefully that is clear. You could literally just use the max function, inbuilt function in Python to get a maximum number of the list, which is excellent. And then the approach two, which I wanted us to learn, was to see that okay, we have to define a certain maximum and set it to be the first element of the list, and then now look through each of the items in that list. Now, if we encounter any item that is greater than the maximum that we have set, we are now going to update the new maximum number to be that number. And then at the end, we know that, okay, our maximum is that one, Right, that's clear, right? Any question on that? Are we all d'accord with that?
Yes,
Ladies?
sir.
Okay, good. All right. So if you don't want to talk, at least send a message so that I should know that some people are following. That's great. So that was this one. So we can add a check here. I call it a green check. How can we add a check? Tick. Nice. Nice Google Docs. Good. So we have this one. Now the next one is that we should count the number of characters or counting the character frequency in a string. That is what we want to do right now. So we want to go through a string and then count the number of occurrence of each character in that string. Say, for example, I'm going to create another file for it. Count numchars.py. And let's say we had a string called my string is equal to hello world. The program is expecting us to go through each of these characters and count how many times it occurs. For example, H occurs one time, I guess, E occurs one time, L occurs three times, O occurs two times, and so on and so forth. That is what it wants us to do. Okay, count the number of occurrence of a character in a string. Okay, so can we go ahead? Who has an idea on that? Now, this one is a little tricky because we have to store each character and the count of the character, like how many times it occurs. So, which data structure first do you think we can use here to effectively do this kind of task?
So
Okay.
Okay,
let's first of all take the input string, then we define an empty dictionary
mm,
to store the character of the input.
okay, so the first thing that I was asking, which data structure is the best to use for this? Two people have mentioned dictionary. Is there any other person that thinks that there's another dictionary, there's another data structure we should use to do this kind of task? Should we go with dictionaries?
Um,
Okay, so Lois is also okay with dictionaries as a third person. Dorcas, are you okay with that? Okay, let's see.
I was thinking we could use a list first before dictionary.
Okay, so if we are to use a list, let me see. Um, we are going to go with all the approaches. All right. So somebody shared a Jamboard. Is there something there that you want us to see? The
No,
person
sir,
who
that was it.
okay. All right. Good. So let us define, say, my string. Let's not put it to hello world. Let's actually ask the user to input the string. At least this one is better. So we get the string. The person who said we should use a list. Uh, let me see. Okay, the person who said we should use a list here. How do we do it?
Um, I was thinking that um we'll create a list with a string and like that.
We create a list with a string inside.
We use the list, is it list function or what? And pass the string in it. It becomes a list.
Uh-huh. After passing it.
So that each element, each letter in the string will become one element of the list.
Okay. So first we get the string and then store the string into a list.
Yes.
Okay. So that means we just have to call that my new string is equal to some sort of list of my string like that.
Yes, sir.
So we now have a list of characters. Okay. What next?
Then we'll call, um use maybe the count function to
Mhm.
count the occurrences of each element of the list.
Now, how do we count the occurrences of each element of the list? If we use the, is it count? Is it a count function?
Yes.
Oh, let me see. Python does not have a count function.
Eh, then
I think Python has a length function that returns the number of items in a list. That will not count. It will literally just count how many characters are in the string, not the not the occurrence of each character. We want that it should have something like this. H occurs 3 times. Whatever E occurs 4 times, and so on and so forth. That's what we want. Okay. I think we could use a list for this, but it will be a very long approach to get it done. The best data structure we can use here will be a dictionary because a dictionary can store a key and some value. What do you think?
I used this before to see this forward. Is that I cannot remember what I was doing.
And it gave you
And it
okay.
worked.
Yes, like I said, if we are using list, it can work. I think so. Let me see. There's a way to use list, but come on, girl, that's a long way. It's a long way. Let's start with dictionaries first. If we have time, we can do list. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So, let us say, okay. So in programming, first thing is that it should work. Second thing is that it should be optimized. If you use a list, there are a lot of for that you might have to do. There are a lot of if statements that you might have to do in your code, and that only increases what the memory usage. So in that case, your code will work, but it's not fully optimized. I did not say list is unoptimized. I'm just saying that when you're using a data structure, you should think of how optimized it is. Okay. So let's go ahead and try to use the dictionary approach. Who mentioned dictionary before? You should tell us the code to write. Nobody is saying who meant the dictionary. Okay, let's declare a variable called the char frequency or the character frequency and set it to be an empty dictionary.
Sir.
Yes?
Okay, okay, it's okay. Continue.
No, I'm not continuing. I have declared the empty dictionary. Now I'm waiting. What next? Okay. Let's see. Mr. Buffo mentioned, okay, so if we are using the count, for example, if we're using the count, we will not call the count like this. We'll call the string function probably and the count or the list that we defined. Let's say, let me come back to that string and we see. Um, my new string or whatever. My new string is equal to list of my string, and then we can try using my new string dot count something, and this is literally supposed to pass in the occurrence. That means that we can have a loop in here, and then for that loop we, let me see, okay, so for each of the items, let me see, for each of the items, for char in my string, we can decide to say, okay, but we'll have to store another list here for what I think count list or whatever is equal to an empty stuff. And then probably we can say count list dot uh, Mr. Buffon, what do you think? I don't see this your method. Counter string. Wonderful. Okay, somebody should share the screen
Um,
and try to do this one. Who should we start with, Josiane?
Sir, I
Yes.
said dictionary. Please let Dorcas just continue with the list that she proposed.
Okay. Mr. Buffon has the approach of a list. Let me finish with the dictionary approach, and then maybe Mr. Buffon can talk about the list, please. I don't know the list approach. People could tell me, but I want to do the one that I understand best for now. Okay, so we're saying that we could define a char frequency count and set it to an empty dictionary. And then what we can do is that we can loop now through the string, because you can also loop through a string. Okay, so you can say for char or for character in my string, you probably now want to say, okay, if the character was already in this char frequency, you just update its value by adding +1 there. Else you create a new key for that. That means that if char in, we saw this yesterday, if char in char frequency, then we say that char frequency at that index plus equal to 1. So this will now increment. If there was already 1, we'll just increment the count of the value. So for example, I'm going to try to do something here. So for the first loop, if we already had a char frequency um, of something like this, let's say uh, h, and we had a count of say 1. If it loops through that string and sees an h, it's just going to come here and say, okay, there was already an h. Let this one become 1 plus 1, which is 2. If it goes somewhere now and it does not see H and it sees E, and E was not already inside here, it's going to now say, okay, uh, E, and set it to 1. That is the next thing we want to do. So if that character was already found in the count or the character count or the character frequency, we just increment the value. Else, we are going to set the value. We say that char frequency at the index of that particular character is equal to 1, something like this. Um, that's what I was trying to explain here. So we'll start with hello. For the first time it goes, if we pass hello world, it's going to see H and say that, okay, there is H, there is no H yet in this empty dictionary, right? So the first time is going to pick the H and just add it to the dictionary. So the first time loop will have a dictionary like this. H is 1. Then the second time is going to look hello world. So it's going to go to E, and there's no E yet in this dictionary. It's going to come here, append E there. E is equal to 1. Then it's going to go to L. There's no L. It's going to say L is equal to 1. Then there is another L. So it will come through this, it will come to this char frequency and check there was already an L. Instead of adding another L here, it's just going to increment the value of this L to 1 plus 1, which is 2, and so on. Do you understand the point? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, please, I don't understand.
Okay. So what I'm saying is the approach I'm thinking is that okay, let us look through this. You know what? Let me do something here. I'm going to print it at each point. Print char frequency and print char frequency here. I want to run it in debug mode so that you see what is happening. So okay, I'm going to say Python count num char dot py. Is it char dot py? And it's going to say input the string. So I'm going to put hello world, right? And then I take enter. Now take a look at what is happening. This is the debug. Um, it goes the first one, hello world, right? So it starts with H. Is H already found in the frequency count? No. So it's going to do what? Append the H there with a count of 1. It goes to the next one, E. Is E already found there? No. It attaches 1 to it. So you now have H of 1, E of 1. It goes to the next, L. Is L already found there? No. It appends 1 to L. And then hello world has double L. So it will go to L again and check within that count. L was already found there. This is the L. So it's going to increment the value from 1 to 2. Then goes to the next one, O. O was not found there. It adds 1, and so on and so forth. So that is literally what is happening. Do you need me to explain again?
No, sir.
Is it clear? If you have a question, feel free to ask, please. Okay, Miss Josiane is okay. Marilyn, do you follow? Let me say my broken French again. Should I say it? Should I say my broken French? No, I'll not say it.
No, sir. I beg. Keep it to yourself.
Okay.
Sir, say it.
I'll say it in the future. All right, that is it. Mr. Bafon, are you available to try the list approach?
So,
Is Sir Bafon still here? Okay, so you see, he said
so
that the approach for list is going to be lengthy. Yeah, I know that. It's actually lengthy. That's why I said we should pick up the dictionary approach. The list approach, you have to literally have the, let me see.
so I did something that was, I cannot explain how it works.
But it worked.
So, I copy the code and show you maybe.
Ah, you
I
want to
can't
copy
remember.
and show me? Uh, so for the list approach, we might not only have to deal with list there. Don't I think we might have to uh deal with some tuple somewhere. Because if we store a list, a tuple, no, let me see.
A list and dictionary.
Why are we even going to use a list and dictionary again?
Yes, sir. That's how it is to use the list and the dictionary.
If you are using a list and a dictionary, that's messed up now. Because literally just use a dictionary. Don't worry, I'll try to paste a code for the list so that people see how it works, please. But for now, I want you to understand the dictionary approach first. Yeah, that's why I was saying that if we are using a list, we might have to think of a tuple there. Uh, okay. Um, yes, Shu is saying that. Please, who was suggesting the list approach? Come again. Who was that? Hello, somebody suggested a list. Patience or Dorcas
Um, is
or
it
Okai?
was
Dorcas, you were the one.
yes.
Okay, so Patience is suggesting that maybe you should try to explain your code. All right. And Josiane is saying that maybe you should share your screen and explain your code. What do you think?
Um, explaining the code.
That one?
Let me let me share the screen and example.
Okay, let me stop sharing. Mr. Bafon, you'll probably come in here.
Yes, he should come and look at the code and say, I don't remember what I was doing.
Don't worry, he's there already. So just share your code. You don't remember what you were doing, but you did something.
Can you post the screen?
Mm, yes, we can see the screen.
Okay.
Okay,
So
please zoom. Control plus.
is it okay now?
I think so.
Okay. So um the very first thing I did was receive the word or the phrase the user is to enter
Mm-hmm.
and save it in the variable word.
Mm-hmm.
And then I create a list out
Yeah.
that I'm going to save it. Okay, then right here I'm creating another list frequency in which I'm supposed to store the frequencies of the individual characters. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
here's where I use that count.
Okay.
So it was the name of the list counts with I or any item to it. So I
Okay.
was actually
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
counting the counting the occurrences of each character in the string
Mm-hmm.
and then saving it up in a new list.
Okay.
And then I'll use this zip function to create a dictionary between a string and its occurrence.
Okay.
So I have the list L where I'm storing the individual characters of the string. I have
Mm-hmm.
another list frequency where I'm storing the occurrences of each character in that string.
Yeah.
And then I created a dictionary result where I'm now I'm creating a key and value pair for the list and its corresponding frequency. That's what's happening on line 5. Are
Wow.
you posting me?
Yes, why not? See, that's brilliant there.
And then I print the results. See if I'm supposed to run it. Uh, shit. Okay, let me say I'm entering the hello. Yeah, I'm entering the hello. I'll have this is the word I've entered, and then here is the final dictionary that's been created with the character and its corresponding frequency. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yeah, I think I can see. I get it. This was quite shorter than I expected. Seriously. um, who else understands it? Because I do understand it. Josiane, I'm sure you understand now.
And then okay, the other part of the code is obtaining the element with the highest frequency.
Okay. Who does not understand this particular approach? Let us know. She will explain. Okay,
Ah,
patience. You explain again.
okay. What happens is I collect the string from the user and save it up in. I save it up in a variable, and then I transform that variable to a list using the list function. That's what's happening in line number 3. I collect an input from the user, save it up in a variable, and then use the list function to convert that string to a list. So the list will now be made up of the individual characters in the string that was entered by the user. So the list function in this line number 3 permits me to do that. So when I transform my new word to a list, at this line number 4, I'm using this loop and the count function to iterate through each of the elements in that list and count the occurrences of each character. So I'm iterating for all of the elements in the list that I have, and I'm counting the occurrences of each of the characters. And I'm storing them in a new list that I'm calling frequency. So at this point, I have 2 lists already. The first list contains the individual characters in the string that was entered by the user. And then the second list, which is frequency, contains the occurrences of the corresponding occurrences of each of those characters. If I was to print this frequency, if I'm to print it, let me just print it. Okay. After I've done this, I'll run it after. After I've counted, I've used the count and the loop to iterate through and count the occurrences of each of the individual characters. I'm then going to use the zip function. The zip function will permit me to append or to match corresponding elements in these 2 lists. So I have the first list L where I had the individual characters of the string. I have the second list freq where I have the occurrences of each of the characters in that string. So now I'm matching the first element in L to the first element in frequency, the second element in L to the second element in frequency. That's what this zip is going to be doing, and it's going to store it up in a dictionary in the form of a key and value pair. So the element will be the key, and then the frequency will be its value. So when I've done that now, I'm printing the result. So if I'm supposed to run it again, if I run it again, let's say I'm entering the same hello we entered. This is what happens. I've entered the hello. A list was created with, okay, let me print this list too. Print L. Okay, let's run it again. All right. The user is entering. The user is oh. The user has entered hello as his word. We have received the hello. The first thing we have done, we split this hello in a string into a list. This is the first list. The L we had here. This is it. Where we have HELLO as the individual element in that list. This is the very first list we have. Then the second list, which was freak, the second list on line number 5, that we created by counting the occurrences of the individual letters in L. This is it down here. So we'll have that for H, its occurrence is 1. For E, the occurrence is 1. For L, it's 2. For this L, it's 2. And then O is 1. L and L is the same thing. That's why they have two as occurrences. Now, on this line line 7, this zip function is actually appending the first element in this list to the first element down here, the second element to the one that is down. So in the end, I'll have, and I'm appending it and storing it in a dictionary. So at the end, I have this. I don't know if people are seeing a dictionary that's made up of the key, which is the element in the first list, and then its value is the element in the second list. That's why down here I have H has a frequency of 1, E frequency of 1, L frequency of 2, and then O a frequency of 1. So that's
Yeah.
what this does. It's simply appending the corresponding um elements in two different lists and then storing them in the dictionary.
Awesome. Patience, is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank
Awesome. Miss Dorcas, that was good. Yes, Lois.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
All right, that's cool. Like that's really cool. Mr. Bafon, is that what you were expecting? I'm sure you also had another method in your head. You see, there's really several ways to. Okay, Bafon has Mr. Bafon has a shorter method. You see, there are really so many ways to do these things. Okay, there are so many ways, and you just
Can I
saw
stop
that.
sharing my screen?
Yeah, sure, you can stop sharing. I'm sure everyone is d'accord with it. So, let me share back. Yeah, so like I was saying, there's just so many ways to do that stuff. Like so many ways. You see, this is my own. I decided to use just dictionaries. She decided to use lists, right? Convert a string to a list, form two lists, and then zip the two lists. And I saw her using a concept of list comprehension. I don't know if you people did that one. For example, you say, okay, my list, for example, is equal to um, I for I in range 5, like this. Let me see my list. Where am I? Was not. What am I doing? Well, my new list or whatever my list is equal to, if you use the concept of list comprehension, for example, square bracket, let's say I times 2 for I in range 5. I'm sure this approach is supposed to work. I don't know why it's highlighting whether I've caused an error, but well, but you see, this is list comprehension, and that's exactly what she was doing. This one is similar to you having 1 for I in range 5 I dot my list dot append something something something. Okay, I saw her using that concept and it was quite good. Mr. Bafon, you taught list comprehension.
Yes, I think we did that.
Okay, so that's cool, Dorcas. That's very nice. I could owe you one for that. Should I owe you one?
Yes, sir.
Let's agree, Josiane. Should I owe her one?
Yes, sir, but they are also owing you one.
Be coming down. Josiane, I'm owing you.
So I was the first person to submit my assignment.
Ouch, ouch. So I'm literally owing people. Okay, so somebody sent
Doctors
you. People should be calming down in this life. Somebody sent this. This is another approach that you could use. Bunch of, you know, uh, this is that same list comprehension again. A list comprehension of the count of each occurrence of these characters in the string. Then you do a loop, and then this one is a buffer. Are you sure this is? Are you sure this is shorter than hers? uh, okay, yeah. So literally, these are approaches. Okay, these are approaches to do the stuff, and I think it's quite good. Let me see if I can add hers here. My string or my new string is equal to list of my string is list of my string, and then I have a frequency count of something like that. Um, how did you do it again? Uh, how did you do it again?
The name of the list is
Okay, the name of the list that is
my
that
my
frequency count is equal to the name of the list my new dot count I.
my
Let's see, let's call it
yes
I for
for
I
I in
in L,
my new
where L now in this case is my new,
my new.
like that. So this literally loops through the my new through whatever string, and then for each of the characters, it appends the count to the frequency. So, like she was saying, if you were to print the frequency, that is going to, I'm just going to print the frequency for now and then comment this one so that you should see what is happening. So if I were to run this, so my string hello world. So you see, it goes to H, for example, counts the number of occurrence of H, goes to E, counts the number of occurrence of E, goes to L, counts the number of occurrence. So for each of them, it counts the number of occurrence. And then the next thing now we have a list of characters, my new, and a frequency of each of the occurrence. Let me print the two, please. Uh, my new. So you see, uh, hello world. So you have all the characters in the string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So each of these character now has a count of how many times it occurs. Then she went ahead now and merged these two using a dictionary. So when you merge these two using a dictionary, what's going to occur is that it's literally just going to now take this dictionary one and merge it to this dictionary two by comparing each of the characters and their occurrence. Now it is not going to repeat. Is it supposed to repeat? I don't think so. So if we do
No,
dic of zip, and it's going to take my new and then let's say the frequency count, This is the case where it is merging the two key value. Okay. So if we were to do this and say, okay, let's say count is equal to this, and we print print count. We are now going to have, let me see, print hello world. We now have something like this, H1, E1, L3, O2. This is a space. Of course, we could see how to get rid of this space. So each character now inside has a number of occurrence. Okay, if you take a look at it, this is what we wanted, right? I think so. Does it repeat anything? No, it doesn't repeat anything. So we are fine. That's it, right, Miss Dorcas?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hopefully, we all got this well. Yeah, so either ways you could choose any of the methods. You see which one best works for you. Now, if you wanted to use this one under, you will need to know casting, you need to know functions of the list, you need to know zip, dictionary, and these are all inbuilt functions that are found within Python that you could use. Okay, so that's literally it. Hopefully we are clear and we can go to the next one. Can we go to the next one?
Yes,
Okay, please, is this helping? Hello, is this helping? Do you think it's necessary for us to do this thing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the next one is to check if a number is prime. What are the characteristics of a prime number?
Yeah,
a
just
prime
so
number has two functions.
Let's check characteristics of a prime number. So a prime number is a whole number greater than 1 whose only factors are 1 and itself. Okay, so it can divide just 1 and itself. That is what we are supposed to check. So if we are to do that, what checks are we supposed to put in place to make sure that it's a prime number? I don't know. Uh, check for prime number. X takes it can divide just 1 and itself. It means that it cannot divide 2, it cannot divide 3, it cannot divide 4, and so on. That's the case, right? So what how do we go about that? Any idea?
mm, I'll perform divisions
Hmm?
as we could perform the modular division.
Modulus division.
Yes, between the
Let's
number and the
let's first of all get the number. Num is equal to int. Let's consider that the number is an integer at least. Enter number. And yes, what should we do?
um the the concept is actually
Yeah, by the way, the first thing to check is one a prime number or not? Josiane?
So, We
So
can first of all start over defining the number.
of course, that's what we'll
You
start
can
with.
say number equal to 22. Then we can initialize a bool a boolean a boolean variable.
Mm-hmm.
Say is prime equal to true.
Okay. So
Then
okay, this one
after that we can look.
this one right now, I expect somebody to share the screen and try it.
eh,
Who is doing it? Let's go to Mr. Baffo. Mr. Baffo, are you up for it?
So what's the price?
You guys should hear what this man is saying. This man is asking price.
Okay, let's try that one and see.
Okay, so what price should we put for this one? Patience?
Sir, please let me try the
Ah, I don't understand. Josiane. Okay, please let me come back to Josiane. Patience, please can you come again? You want to try? Hello. So what are you people saying right now? People should you should not lose me. Who is sharing? Okay, so this is what I want to do. I want to open a Google Colab and it's refusing to open. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm trying to open
Yes, no.
I'm trying to open Google Colab and it's giving me some server error that this site cannot be reached. Colab, log, sign up. Wonderful. It seems their servers are down or something. Sorry, I wanted somebody to code let's be seen. Now it's not going. Created notebooks, new tab. Okay, I cannot open Google Colab. Let me see, is there code spaces? Mr. Bafon, can you share your screen this time and take on with this one?
Wow.
Or you want us to give money? Tell your students to give
No,
money.
it's okay.
They will give. Let me stop sharing so that you can share. Over to you, sir.
Eh, So, let's see. What are the conditions again for the payment and authority?
What is your condition for prime number again?
A prime number is a number that's greater than one and is it can be divide only by and the number.
So you can divide only one and itself, right?
Yeah, nice. Yes.
Okay. That's so every let's say two. Two is a prime number, but one is not. Is two a prime number? Yes, I think two is a
Yes.
prime number,
Yes.
but one is not. Three is also a prime number, I guess. Is three a prime number?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Three is a prime number.
Four is not
Second.
a prime number, and so on. So yeah, it can
Okay.
divide only one and itself.
Okay, so from what I understand, so please mute your mic so that
Oh, sorry.
we know we getting there. So thank you for that. So for what I understand, we need to do a modulus division. Then after performing a modulus division for a given number, we need to count the number of times that number has this thing, its divisor. And after counting, if the number of times that number has a divisor is equal to 2, then that number is definitely a prime number. Otherwise, that number is not a prime number. So to start, we need to get a number. So when we get a number, let's say 3. No, let's start with 2, since 2 is the first prime number in the list. So for us to be able to get that prime number, so let me ask, are we printing all the prime numbers before that number? We're just returning that number is a prime number.
We just want to know whether that number is a prime number or not.
Okay. So for us to be able to detect if that number is a prime number, for me, what I'm going to do is this. Left on me, let's just start by doing this. Let's do it this way. Let's actually check if that number has a divisor. Let's say 2 for instance. What we should do is we should actually take 2. We should take 2 and divide it with itself and divide you all the numbers before 2. Because since we want to count the number of times that 2 can actually divide itself and other numbers, for us to be able to know if that number is a prime number. So let's just hard code the number for now. Let's say number is equal to 2, and that's why I'm doing this. I would prefer to use functions to get if that number is a divisor. But let's just write it anyhow for now. Let's say for I in the range of 2 of this thing, number plus 1, so that we'll get numbers right up to this thing, right up to the number that I have up here. Remember, the range function will return a number less than the actual number that I've passed to it. So when we're looping through that, for me, what I would do is I would do if the number that we currently have mod this thing I, if that is equal to 0, then I is a divisor of this number. Let's initialize count to this thing, count to 0. Then as we're looping through this, we actually, if I is a divisor of that number, then we should actually increment this count. And after executing this, count plus equal to 1, then after executing this, we should come here and check if count is equal to this thing, is equal to 2, then what should be our message string? Yeah, the number is prime. Yes, the number is prime. Let's first see if it works first, then trace back. Number integer modulus by zero. Okay, so let's start our range function from 1. Is that it? Yeah, that works. Uh, let's get 3 for instance, and
Please
then
give me 1 second. Becky,
Yes, I wish to say that to get the modulus division, it is it not rather going to be I mod the number? Is it the number mod I? I think it's I mod the number.
first of all, let me explain what is happening here. After explaining that, maybe you understand why we insert get by this thing, why we insert get by the number mod I. Because here they say for a number to be prime, that number has to divide only one and itself. So the total number of divisors that number can have is just 2. And let's say, for instance, let's understand what a divisor is. So let's say 4 divided by 2 is going to give us 0. It's going to give us 2 remainder 0. So for a number to be a divisor, that number has to go into another number, or another number has to divide that number, and the remainder has to be 0. So that's the condition for a number to be a divisor of another number. So what we're doing here is this: when we get a number, let's say when we get 2 for instance, since we want to know the number of times 2 has a divisor, so what we have to do is we have to start looping right from 1. We have to start looping from 1 right up to 2. We have to start looping from 1 right up to 2, right up to that number that we've gotten, which is 2. And when we're looping, we have to take 2. 2 has to divide that number that we're currently looping through. So when we start iteration, we start at 1. So we have to take 2 mod 1 for the first iteration. Then we check if 2 mod 1 returns 0. It means that the current value of I, which is 1, is a divisor of 2. Then we'll come here and we do this thing, and we'll increment the count. So like you're saying that, why should we not instead do but well listen, I mod that number? Why that will not work is because if we have to do that, then for the first iteration, I is going to be 1. So when we take 1 divided by 2, that's going to give us, is it 0.5? And that's not going to be what we want. So what we expect is dividing this 2 with all the previous numbers before 2 to get the number of divisor 2 has. And when we do that, if that number, if the current count is equal to, oh sorry, not count, if the current value of I that we're currently iterating at is a divisor of that number, then we increment count. And if it is not, then we do nothing. So let's say, for instance, let me clear this and we actually test. In the case of 2, we say that 2 is a prime number, and let's say if we were to enter 1, nothing will be printed. Yeah, because 1 is not a prime number. And if we were to enter 3, 3 is a prime number, and 4 will not be a prime number. So let's see if our program detects that. Yeah, 4 is not a prime number. Let's have an else statement here. Print number is not prime, something like that. So first of all, is this implementation understood?
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's appearing.
Okay, so let's say now that we receive the input from the user. Int input here, enter a number. So Let's execute this again. Yeah. So number is prime. So that's the stuff. So that's my implementation for the problem stated.
Really? Okay now. So can you take it one more time again?
So are you sleeping?
What are you trying to say?
So based on the condition for a prime number. So I'm getting myself back.
Please just go again. Prime number is the one that will divide one and itself. Yes, continue.
So what I'm saying is that you should mute your mic, the
Oh,
interference
sorry.
this way. So first of all, we're having this why we're doing this check here for this for loop is based on the condition that the prime number should have. So since the way I understood this, since a prime number is a number that can divide only one and itself, for me the way I understood is that number has to have just two divisors, which is one and itself. So what I choose to do, or the method that I choose to do, is this: I created a variable that receives the number from the user. Then I initialized count to 0. And what this count is going to do is, this count is the variable, or the value that count has is going to determine if that number is a prime number or not. And now for me to be able to get the number of divisor that number that I've received can have, I need to actually look from one right up to that number. That's why we have our range function starting at 1 and it ends at number plus 1, because the range function will always look right up to n minus the value that we have passed, or 1 minus the value that we have passed as the stop value to it. So when we are looping through this, we actually come inside this, inside our for loop, we actually do a check. And the check, what the check does is this: we actually take the number that we have received from the user and we divide it with the current iteration, with the current value that our range function has returned. And if that modulus division returns a 0, then we actually know that the current value of I is actually a divisor of that number. And when it's a divisor, we actually increment count by 1. So after doing that, this is what this loop here is going to do. And after doing that, after that loop has stopped execution, we now come and check if that count is equal to 2, then that number is definitely a prime number, else that number is not a prime number. So here you discover that for the else condition, for here what we do is this: let's say for instance, let's come here and we actually print out this thing. I'll actually print out the count for a number like let's start with 2 first of all. You say that 2, that the count here for the number of divisor that 2 has is just 2, and then making this condition to be matched. That's why we have 2 is a prime number. And if we were supposed to print, let's say if we enter 4 for instance, 4 is not a prime number, and this is because 4 has 3 divisors, which is 1, 2 and itself. That's why 4 is not a prime number according to our program and according to the rules of prime numbers. And then if we're supposed to enter 5, so that 5 is a prime number because 5 can divide just itself and 1 only. And if we continue like that, this our implementation, or this my implementation here, is going to return all of the prime numbers. So I'm done.
Voila. It's nice that you're done. Oh, I hope everybody is clear with that. Yes, they are clear. Ha. If they are not clear,
Please,
yes, go ahead.
so I wanted to say that um, when we're actually checking for prime numbers, they actually, in essence, they check from 1 to the number divided by 2. Because after half the value of the number no longer has other factors.
Okay, that's a
So if
valid
we're
idea.
checking, it's needless checking from 1 till the number itself.
Wow. Okay,
To
yeah.
make it optimal, we could just check from 1 to half of the number because the factors of the number actually end at half of the number.
Okay.
I don't know if
I,
you understand
I don't.
that.
I rather don't think so. I think we need to check right up to that number because every number is a factor of itself. So we need to check right up to the number. If we check right up to the half of that number, it simply means that even prime numbers will have one factor because when we check right up to the number, that's when we get the second factor.
Okay. Okay, that means if you check from 1 to half of the number, you are supposed to check if count is 1 instead of checking if count is 2
It's two.
from Becky's point of view. And then um I think Becky, you were the one who mentioned it, right? I think your point is it Becky?
Lucas.
Dorcas,
Yes,
sorry.
it's Becky. I was talking about what doctor says. Yes.
Okay, so this is it. The idea was valid as well, Mr. Buffon. Is that if let's say if we had 1,000, doesn't mean you have to loop up to 1,000 times to check if a number is prime. Looping from 1 to 500, because 501, there's no way 501. There's no way 1,000 divided by 501, 502 will even give something valid. So checking from 1 to half of the number could be valid as well. But now if you are checking in that instance, that means that the count, the only thing you are expecting is that that number should only divide 1, right? So the count will be, you'll be checking if count is equal to 1 instead. Does that make sense, Mr. Buffon? I don't know. I'm trying to reason from uh, somebody's point of view.
Wait, from what I understood, from what Lucas said and I understood,
Mhm.
please send me your mic again. Yeah, thank you. So from what I was understanding is Oda do not get her completely, but from what I heard, she said it's sincerely less to start counting from listening, to start iterating from one since every number will divide one and every number will also divide itself. Because is that what you said, or is that what you meant?
No, I actually meant that it's not going to be optimal iterating right up to the number itself
Okay, so
because the factors of a number end at half of that number.
okay, half of that number. Okay. Small was our missing math classes like that.
What are you trying to say? Her idea is valid. I think so. Um,
Yeah, half of that. So let me see. Yes, all right, please go and talk.
Um, if we are to iterate up to half of the number that we are checking if it's prime or not, how do we include that in the range function, considering that it's going to check up to n minus 1?
Let me see. So if I have to iterate up to half of that number, then what we have to do is this, meaning that any number that we see from the user, we have to divide that number by 2. Then remember that the range function will only take in integers, so we have to typecast that number to We have to typecast that number to this thing, to an int. Let's just say iterating. Let's just say I, no x is equals to number divided by two. Let me see. Uh, let's typecast this number divided by two. We can round up that number. Then let me just typecast that to number divided by two. And then here we're iterating right up to x plus one. And then right up to x plus one. So the condition is, what are the conditions for a number to be a factor of another number? I don't know. Who should explain so that when I have a good foundation, I can see how the computer will understand that. Someone should help me.
Haha, you really want somebody to help you. The condition for what?
People say the number has to be that the factors of a number will end at half of that number, right? So
Yes. For example, let us take for example 8, right? What are the
yeah,
factors of 8?
well for it will be a factor of itself, right? Well for two,
So we will have something 1, 4, 2, or 1, 2, 4, 8, right? That's 8
yep.
inclusive. The factors of 16 will be 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. The factors of 30 will probably be 1, 3, 5, 6, 15, and 30. So once it reaches half of that number, the next factor will only be the number itself. Okay. So from what Dorcas was saying is that let us just start from 1 to half of the number and know that the number itself is already inclusive. So we don't need to loop right to the number again. So if we're keeping count of the number of factors that it has, taking for example, say for I in range, let's say 1 to half of the number, if number mod or I is equal to 0, then we do count plus equal to 1, we increment the count. And then at the end, we know that the number itself is not included. That means the count will have to be count minus 1. So that we'll check now if the count is just equal to 1. That means if the number was only able to divide 1, right, then that means it's prime because we did not take into consideration that the number is dividing itself at the end. So the concept she's behind is that we start from 1 to half of the number. If between 1 and half of the number, that number is able to divide just 1, then that number is prime because 1 and the number itself will make it 2. I think that's how I understand her point. Dorcas, am I on track with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes.
And
So
program
yes, Bafan.
yes, so if that's the case, then our implementation is okay because it does the same, it works. So it's a prime. Let me enter two, let me run the code again. Enter number two. Two is a prime number. Case of three is a prime number. Yeah. So the implementation, yeah, this will do the same. So we just have to change some few parameters and that will see work same.
Good. One additional check before even going to that loop, you could check if the number is less than 2. If the number is less than 2, it's automatically what? Not a prime number. So that's
Yeah,
some of
so if the number is less than listen, if the number is less than two, or I don't even think this function is going to run. Let me see. Range is we start at one. Oh, yeah, it's going to execute once. If if number is less than two, just print. No, you don't know here. You break, just break out of this.
So
Then
you probably want to print not prime and then you break out of the loop.
so this function, when it breaks out now, this check now would bring out the reason. It's not prime.
Okay,
This
sure.
S thing here.
Yeah.
Let me see if that works. Let's enter one. Yeah.
So yeah, those are some things we could do. Wow. So we used 2 hours to solve how many of these examples? Okay. But at least I'm sure it was helpful. I'm sure. I'm really sure it was. So let me share the example files with you people. I think we should continue on this tomorrow and after tomorrow because after this, we'll be getting into some deep aspects of Python. We have treated functions and dictionaries and all the other data structures. So, if we are learning any other thing, it will probably be things like handling files with Python, which is part of data analysis already, reading the content of a file, and then we will talk a little bit about how to import packages. And I don't know, based on Mr. Bafo, make and share your notes with us, please. It seems you have been very busy with school this time. Is that true?
Yes, I'm writing this in
Oh, pre.
pre-HND, and sometimes I like this disturbing. Like there was no light just came out with around thing like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm sending this to the group. That's the document for all the tasks, and we are going to continue on that probably. So, do you people have any questions? We've solved the first four. Hmm. We solve the first four. If tomorrow we solve the next eight, then before Sunday, if we are done with all of this week, then we are done with the fundamentals of Python and we can do something cool. Are we okay? Who has a question or something? Any question? Because the fit example is something we have already done, calculating the sum of elements in a list. Let me see. This was what frequency sales. I think it was functions. So in functions, we did something that calculated the sum of elements in a list. What was it? Okay, we defined our function and we calculated the sum of elements in a list. We did this yesterday, I think. Josiane gave her own. I don't know if it was Dorcas. So they gave their own, and we saw how we could do that. Of course, we said we could just call the sum function, like just a normal sum, and pass in the list inside, and it's going to work. But we're trying to define our own sum that we can literally call. So one was using a for loop, the other was using a while loop. Okay, so to get a sum of a list, we set the total to be zero at the initial level. Then we loop through each items in the list and just add the item to the total. And then at the end, if we return the total, we'll get the sum of all the items in the list. And like I said, you could add some error handling to make sure that all the items in the list are actually numbers. Okay. So if you encounter a position where it is not a number, you probably want to continue or skip that particular one and somebody the next one that is a number. I think this one, hopefully we got this yesterday, right? Oh, somebody mentioned handling errors. I did not forward this yesterday. I thought I did. Uh, Let me see. Please, let me just get this and create a file here called some elements in list.py. Paste this thing inside and all this indentation is not necessary. in total, and then let's say okay, uh, list items items is equal to some list of one, two, three, and so on and so forth. That was a sum. And then the prime check was that according to what Mr. Buffon gave, what was his code again? Buffon. Okay, so we set a certain count to zero, equal to zero to store the number of times the number is divisible or the number of factors that a number has. And then for you use a for loop for I in range of from 1 to the number according to Dockers. We said okay, number or divided by 2, num divided by 2, but we cast this into an integer, I guess. Right, so if we cast this into an integer, num 2 plus 1, do we add 1 there? um what should we do? We can literally check if num mod I like brackets. Don't ask me why I like it. It's where I'm coming from. If num mod 2 is equal to 0, then we increment the count plus equal to 1. Else we do what? There's no else. Is there else? Nope, we don't need an else here. We can literally just go ahead now and check if um, count is equal to 1 in this case. Then print formatted string of number is prime. And then else, I'm writing this because I want to forward to you people. Print f number is not prime, something like that, right? This is what was there, right, Mr. Buffer? Mr. Buffer, I'm sure this is what you had, right? I hope I'm not making an error. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, the first 5.
Yes, that's what we had.
Okay, tick. So yeah, we have this first 5. We can continue with the other ones next time. So I'm just going to, you know what? I'm supposed to teach you people GitHub, but guess what? GitHub hub.com/121mch. Let me just create a repository and push this thing there, please. At least after this now, somebody can go and follow what I was doing and create something. New repository, uh, Python basics, and this is going to be called Python basics. No readme, nothing, nothing, nothing. Create the repository. Where should I put it? I'll put it in the Skype organization and make it public and then create it. And then after creating it, I'll just follow all of these stuffs here. And so I'll just copy this code, come and open my terminal in peace and paste the entire code that I've copied there. So I just create a readme.md and echo this content inside. And then after doing that, I initialize it as a Git repository, add the readme.md file, commit the changes, set the default branch to main because when I do git init, the branch become master. I know some people are already lost and then set the remote to be linked to that repository that I just created, and then push it to GitHub. So there we go. Uh, you see everything turns green. It has pushed this one. If I come back here right now and refresh, I now have something called readme.md here with Python basics inside. Then I'm going to now just add all the contents here. I'm going to add it to the staging area on GitHub and push it. Git add, I'm going to use dot git commit minus m updates. Let me see. Simple Python task with the girls. Haha. I know why I use you. And I do git push. And there we go. We have all our code present here. And I can now copy the entire link of the repository. Copy link and send it to some people to view. You're welcome. I said that you're welcome now. Okay, so we are literally done. Any question? Don't worry, I think I'll try to teach this maybe in some 2 weeks to come or 3 weeks to come. But I just had to push this. Any question? Can we end here? Any worry? Is there anything you want us to talk about? Lucas, are you whispering?
No, sir.
Are you sure? I'm hearing you. Josiane has left. Finally, seems her computer has gone off. Uh, any other person? Anything to say? Can we say good night?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Have a great night. Miss Megan, have a great night. Janice, were you following up?
Yes, sir, boss.
Okay. Favor, have a great night. Miss Dorcas, so I'm owing you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, send me your momo now.
Okay, sir, right away.
All right, good night, everyone. Uh, let me
Good
see. There
night,
was
sir.
somebody I want to personally greet. Where's Lois? Lois left already. Ah, good night, Mr. Precious. Mr. Precious, I will not momo you. Janice, good night. Johnny, good night. Let's see. Who have I not greeted? Berry, Becky, have a great night, Miss.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Yeah. So if people should just maybe go through the document I sent and start trying to attempt those ones that they will continue tomorrow. By the end of this week, you people should really have all of this foundation so that I can either hand you people to Mr. Juventus or add some 2 weeks to it and do some additional stuff, some simple data analysis before he starts with the advance. Are we okay? Yes. Some people don't want to leave. uh, Marilyn.
We're doing last man standing.
Marilyn, we are done. We are finished. Marilyn, can you write me, please? This last man standing like that. It seems I'll be the first person. I'll leave her. You people will follow behind.
Okay, sir. It'll be nice to see you.